or called to order at 1:03 p.m. First order of business up is minutes for May the 9th.
They looked fine to me. I will move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved.
Awesome.
Okay, and I'm going to share over here to this handy dandy PowerPoint. Where we can take a look at the concepts. I'll do a quick walkthrough on the highlights of 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll jump in and discuss. Sound good?
Sure.
Sounds good.
So concept 1 is the active east, and the west wing is quiet. Concept 1 includes staff space in this new back office, collections, flexible programming, public workspace, etc. In the new wood building area. I'm not sure what he means by marketplace collections.
I was wondering about that. I thought,
Marketplace is separate. So it's marketplace, collections, and media. And from my understanding, marketplace is what he's referring to the main thoroughfare as. So where the majority of traffic and the main desk will be is that like square section.
Sure. It also looks like Joe had added some storage in at the back of the current staff work area.
right. And then I would assume that with the other green spaces, the new green spaces in the wood building, that means we've achieved additional space for staff.
Yes.
Okay.
It would be a net gain for staff.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and then on the second floor, then we have the addition of the 3 quiet study rooms on the second floor in the current second floor, and then the teen/maker space on the wood building second floor in the mezzanine, along with some added storage up there. In case you hadn't noticed, Janie, I'm quite ill today.
I'm sorry. You do sound pretty froggy.
Excellent. I feel even better. Okay, so and then we've got the teen/maker room upstairs. So the general breakout here, I've got a couple slides on that, showing the space usage by age group for the different areas within the library. First for morning story time, then for after school children, teens and adults. And Joe had highlighted that use of the /maker room that he has listed as a potential area of conflict. So that's the first one. Number 2 is active west, quieter east. So for the quiet east, active west, we retain full staff room configuration as it currently is. The PSP, by the way, the little purple asterisk, I believe is intended to be a service point, patron service point. maker room in this option is on the lower level in what is currently the museum office. And then in this one, the teen room is over on our current second floor, and then we've got 2 quiet study and a group study room in back on the mezzanine.
Hey, Eric, by chance, did Joe send anything to indicate the group study room, like how many people that would accommodate up to? No?
No, I can send it as a question. All I got from Joe was basically this, along with, let me know if you have questions.
I'm kind of guessing from being familiar with that space up there that it, 3 to 4 people would be optimum
In the space
in the group
labeled
study,
group
in the
study.
group study in the mezzanine of the wood building. Yeah.
Thanks, Jeannie.
Well, it looks like the storage is in that room and not accessible from outside that room.
That would be true. Yeah. If you were going to access the storage by pushing the hallway that's at the bottom end of the quiet study rooms all the way over, you'd impact the group study room. But I've never looked in that storage cabinet, so I don't know how big it is. I'm not sure what you would be planning on storing in there.
There's like a closet, but then there is a heating system, I think is what Eric said.
There's a what in there? Sorry.
Heating system.
So it's not all storage, that whole.
Right.
spot.
No. Okay. We have the changes highlighted here through, again, morning story time, after school, teens and adults. As highlighted, again, the teen area on the second floor is a potential conflict zone, as being in there in the adult area.
What do you mean
use-
exactly by a conflict zone where there'd be more people wanting to use it than is available?
Different groups of people trying to use it for different purposes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like with the first one with the maker space and the teen room sharing space, be a potential conflict because teens would be getting out of school, but you could also well have people stopping by hoping to use that maker space during the afternoon.
And Eric, I think there was also some concern about stacking different activities on top of one another in the building, that if you have a quiet zone on the first floor, do you try to make sure you've got also a quiet zone above it?
Yeah. Yep. And I'll jump in. That's kind of my first point to pull out here.
There was one other
my
question I wanted
notes.
to ask Eric, and that is, I noticed when Joe put usages according to age, he also did it according to time, but he doesn't have anything there between morning and 3 p.m. / after school time. Is the library typically pretty quiet, like say noon to 3 roughly?
Yep.
Yeah, I think working under the assumption that the noisier times of day would be in the afternoon after school release and in the morning during story time, and that other times of day would be quieter.
Gotcha.
Pretty accurate.
That makes sense, but I was just curious. Thank you.
And Janie, just for your minutes, Eliza is here in the meeting. That was her.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll try and remember to say that before I say anything.
Okay. Okay, Eliza, you're with us, right?
Yeah, and Jillian, and I'm
Yeah.
Katie.
And Anna and Katie?
Yep.
Yep. I don't know how to change my name when I'm on my phone.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I couldn't change it for you because I'm on the iPad.
Okay. Does Eric know he's frozen?
He's on the
He's-
phone right now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He got a call and it seems important. Since I know we're not talking about zones, but the first problem conflict could be easily resolved by scheduling with the teen and makerspace.
Sorry about that. I got my dad in the hospital and
Oh, no.
car being repaired and all sorts of things going on. So
Wow. I hope your cat's at least okay. You were taking
They're-
cats to the vet last time.
yeah,
Right.
they're still sick.
Oh,
But they seem okay with that. So
oh, dear.
okay, what did I miss?
Nothing.
We were
we-
waiting
Nothing
for
really?
you.
Okay. So then we look at concept 3, which is active east and quieter west, separate maker and teen spaces. So this one has the maker space in that back office room, has the teen space on the mezzanine, it has the 3 quiet rooms, the second floor. So for this one, there is less in terms of, I think necessarily conflict areas, with more spaces being dedicated to specific things. So it's a dedicated teen area. There isn't anybody else coming in there at any point trying to do anything else. Oh, I remember what I was going to say before I took the phone call. So the traffic goes up and down between 10 and 3. You know, 10 to noon, we always have we have our early morning adults and our a lot of young kids that'll come in. Not usually a lot of kids that'll come in then from noon to 3. But we do have kind of a mini rush of adults middle of the day around noon. That'll, depending on the day, hit us. But most of that in terms of the type of usage, how people are using the building when they come in, it's the same. You know, there's bumps in terms of level of traffic, but the type of traffic is pretty much consistent from 10 to 3. And I think that type of traffic is the big thing that he was mapping out. Okay, so kick us off here, and I'm excited to not talking for a bit. I'm not quite as sure here on some of his designations as far as quiet versus not quiet. You know, I think to me it seems more of a mix of activity. Anyway, I do have questions as far as, you know, the teen space up above the workroom here in the wood building. Anyway, who wants to jump in next? Questions, comments?
When
So
you,
I,
go ahead, Bonnie.
oh, thanks, Janie. So I guess I have some, I lack clarity around the team room and the maker room. And having visited other libraries, and Eliza, you and I were together for both of the visits I did, I feel like having dedicated maker space might not be the most efficient use of what's still a somewhat constrained footprint. And quite honestly, I was a little surprised in some of the drawings in our meeting that, you know, a dedicated makerspace was on being considered, because I think there's a fair amount of retrofit we would have to do for some of the equipment, and with the usage, you know, and having teens in my family, they're not getting up and going to the library before noon on a weekend, and on a weekday they're at school. So I feel like if we do build out if we have any maker space, I think we make sure it's flexible space that can be used for, you know, as a meeting room maybe as well. I don't know if it would be able to be used as programming, but I don't think a dedicated maker space is the best way to go, you know, and it was said last meeting, I captured it in the minutes, flexible, 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 and IT enabled. So
Bonnie,
Anna, I believe you'd been talking about some of the possibilities with mobile makerspace and working from storage with some of that.
Yes. So Bonnie, kind of as you noted last meeting, we got really excited at the idea of this new room. What could we do with it? And I think kind of got away from ourselves a little bit about dreams versus reality for our space. So something, especially with the crossover between teen and maker, Eliza and I have really been looking at is, yeah, dedicating a maker space to a specific room or area with any kind of permanent installation is going to most likely result in a space that is used a very small percentage of the time. So we have started really looking at, again, how could we maintain the original plan of a mobile maker space that we had with our current footprint, and then potentially use like some of that extra storage on the mezzanine to store a couple rolling technology carts that we could set up. Either say we could set it up in the teen space for a teen maker hour or whatever, or we could set it up in the spruce room for some dedicated sessions, that kind of thing. And really looking at having smaller level equipment that would be easily movable, as opposed to trying to dedicate the footprint to larger equipment that will get less usage for the cost.
Well, to both of your comments, Bonnie, I was going to ask the exact same question. Seems to me when I haven't toured different libraries and looked at their maker spaces like you all have, but the ones I have seen have a wealth of space available to have different things in there that we, even with taking over the wood building, we still would not have. So I don't know what you have actually, you've all obviously looked into what sorts of, can you give me an idea of what sorts of things? I mean, now we're talking sewing machines. I know we discussed before, you know, 3D printers, and we decided that wasn't probably a good investment or use of space, so on and so forth. So can you tell me, give me some specifics as to what would go into a maker space were we to do that?
So we're looking at some smaller things, like you mentioned, having a sewing or embroidery machine. Specifically, a lot of maker spaces will have a fancier embroidery machine that does more than the average home sewer's machine will do, in order to attract more people to use it. But we'd be looking at one that could double as a basic sewing machine or having a basic sewing machine. We've got the Cricut machine, which we'd like to get set up in whatever makerspace we do create for public access. A laminator would definitely be, I think, appreciated by the public, even if it's just
Okay,
small.
what is a Cricut machine?
Oh, it's a, you remember those old fashioned die cut machines where you could
Oh,
cut like
it's for-
special
it's for
shapes?
scrapbooking, that kind of stuff?
It's for scrapbooking,
Yeah.
but it can also cut ours. I think we got the one that can also cut fabric and like thin wood. It can also do scoring. So they've come a long way from the old die cut machines.
Okay, all right, great,
In
that's good to know.
limited capacity, it could do some kinds of similar things as a laser cutter.
Basically,
Okay.
yeah, it's a free motion cutting tool. Oh goodness, Eliza, are you remembering anything else I mentioned the other day?
One of those library visits I was on, there was like slides, negative or slide scanning abilities in their makerspace, and laser cutter is
Mhm.
another thing.
Yeah.
But laser cutter
cutters-
requires venting as well.
It requires a permanent station, it requires venting, and they often are very noisy. So they would
Mhm.
cause an issue there. I think that might be one we have to let go for the sake of our size. And it's also a huge expense that I'm not sure we could guarantee would be used enough to be worth it. So
Yeah, I like the idea a lot of having a teen maker space, but I also worry if they're intending that the collection go in there. So that should have like a different location maybe, or I don't know, or if it goes in there.
My concern with the, which I think someone else expressed as well, was that if we put the maker space, if that basically permanently gets housed in the teen collection, or in the teen space, and that's where we also have programming, that would limit access to the collection. And it's why we're choosing not to put newspapers or magazines in the Stroh reading room, because if it's in use for some other program or meeting or something like that, it would limit access to the collection. If it was intended like we're just going to keep the stuff up here, but then move it down somewhere else for the actual, if we have a scheduled class or a program, I think that's one thing, but we'd need to be clear about where the makerspace activities would actually be happening.
Yeah.
Teen is definitely a space that it's more difficult to pair up with other usage.
Mhm.
The teens, when they're there, can be a bit of a whirlwind, and then I would say that then for adults potentially coming in, that there might be a level of discomfort making use space for a significantly different activity later or at a different time.
And I mentioned this was just a discussion among staff, but also, since we've heard from the public that they're looking that they would really appreciate a dedicated teen space, it seems disingenuous isn't the right word I'm looking for, but kind of like, oh, hey, we created this new space. Oh, by the way, it's also being used for this other stuff. So it's not actually a dedicated space for you. And I know that we need to have flexibility wherever we can, but I think we need to be cautious of what we are asking the team space to do, and if we're asking it to multitask as too many other things.
One other thing, I hate to be a Grinch about teen space, but what kind of spaces does Croya provide?
very little for Lake Bluff students until high school, in my opinion. I didn't know Korea existed until late middle school, early high school.
Really?
Yeah, when I attended Korea, it was all Lake Forest kids.
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting.
I mean, maybe things are changing, but it very much was not,
It didn't feel welcoming to Lake Bluff kids because I thought it was,
too far
I thought it
away.
was community wide. I mean,
I think they're open, but to Anna, what Anna just said is that it's really far. from the
Yeah, they're right
community.
next door to Deer Path Middle, but for us,
True,
it's like
yeah.
a good mile walk. So,
that's true. That's true.
And something that Melissa always talks about is having a dedicated teen space, and that's what the community is asking for.
Well, it's, I do wonder on that. I think the need is there. I think it's very much a focused group that really needs it, and I think there's disinterest. I just pulled up our survey to look 2018, and the teen space and additional space for youth services actually had the strongest levels of disinterest of the items that we had put out.
Interesting.
Disinterest.
So I think the need is real, but you know, again, it's a very focused space, and reflected in the survey results as well as how we would want to come at putting the space together.
I think to your point, Eric, that there is the need to at least try to offer it. So if we designed it as, here's the space, here's where the teen books are going to go. So we have space to build the quiet study rooms. This is going to be a teen area. And if a few years down the line, it's not working out, I don't think there's anything about a teen space that will negate flexibility into another kind of space. Like with a makerspace, you're putting equipment in places, whereas the teen space will be shelves, study tables, and fingers crossed we get lots of teens using it and we never have to go back.
It's also a little bit of a chicken and the egg. There's no space for teens here, so they have nothing to kind of say, oh yes, we'd love that expanded on,
Well, I mean, we do have a space that is for teens. It's just for a lot of other people too.
We have a collection. We don't have a space.
Yeah, I agree with Eliza's assessment on that.
We should
We have
also
tables next to
consider
a teen collection.
well, yes, but also the survey group itself is much less likely to include teens since we currently don't have teens.
Yep. Chicken and egg. It's a chicken and egg situation.
But that might... Sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, if we want to do a teen area, we probably want to look at something that is a true dedicated space. The space that we currently have is already a multi-use space. And we've gone to the extent of trying to have a desk up there at times to really try and get that going more. So I think the real change there for that space, for a space, would be having a true enclosed, really separate and dedicated teen space. They can be noisy.
Mhm.
Something I'm looking at as far as these. Anyway, I feel like I've jumped in here and started to ramble. Where were we? Makerspace.
Sounds like we have a consensus kind of about the makerspace. Would we all agree that we're kind of at a consensus as far as we don't want to dedicate a room, but we want to make sure to dedicate storage space to the equipment?
Yeah, we definitely want flex in most anything that we do here, if we have the ability to.
Would it work to, supposing that the equipment is not large equipment, would it work to do something like what you've done with the children's space and have the STEM maker kits be available to check out of the library and take home and use it and then bring it back.
I think
Probably not.
I'm just curious, the couple of things that you mentioned, you know, like a Cricut machine and a sewing embroidery machine and those two things in particular, they aren't something that just anybody can sit down and use. And so you know, I don't know if you're going to have staff members that are going to sit with somebody who's coming in for the first time and wants to use that stuff. I'm just,
That's usually, it is for the adult side of things, it is usually stuff that's more complicated. You know, and complicated sometimes in a way that where it's possible to break things without, if you don't do them correctly.
right.
sometimes it's possible to break things while doing them correctly.
Yep, that
So,
too.
Right.
I do think, to your point, Janie, with the additional collection space, we will be looking at offering some of those similar to-go kits for other equipment, such as like a photography kit with a tripod or that kind of thing, or there's some jewelry making kits that you can give people, that kind of thing. But the larger, heavier stuff, we want it to be able to stay put, and it will be something we will have to figure out how to dedicate staff member availability while it is available to the public.
And doesn't the Cricut also require software?
The Cricut does require software, so we will need to pair it with a specific computer or iPad for functioning. But
I was just saying that would be another potential snag in terms of loaning it out, wouldn't it?
Okay.
maybe.
Well, it's an idea we can take a look at. Would be helpful if we could find a library that's already done this so that we could creatively steal some of their ideas. We can look into it, Janie. But I think right now, as far as where we're looking in terms of the space, we are thinking in terms of just looking at the blueprints that we would not have a space that was designated just makerspace. That whether it was circulating or whether it was on a cart living, you know, in storage and brought out as needed, that you know, either of those is not going to have, you know, an impact in taking up particular space areas on the blueprint. So I think for our discussion now, we research it and come back to it. Does that sound good,
Yeah.
Janie?
Yeah, yeah.
So makerspace, flexible, not assigned to a particular space. Let's see. Then our other big items that shift between are the teen room and the quiet study room. Don't all jump in at once.
I think this layout you have on the screen, Eric, is the most functional for those locations. I don't think we will have the space we need for a teen room where the quiet study rooms are, because we have to maintain the shelving and it's not as wide.
Yeah, aesthetically, zoning concept 1 works the best overall. Because we hadn't looked at the lower level yet on zoning 1, but with the staffing and everything too, and extra storage, the layout flowed better.
We could also run into issues having a teen room right above the quiet reading room.
Mm-hmm. Or just in general, I mean, that entire space connects all 3 levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's I mentioned that earlier in our discussion. Any attempt to make that side of the building a quiet space is just going to be, it's not going to work.
Which side of the building are we talking about?
The current building, current
The west
library
side.
building.
Oh,
Yeah, we can do what we can to limit noise, but we can't make it quiet because of the open air plan. I don't think
Yeah.
that means we should throw more noise at it though.
No. Yeah, and it's rarely actively like loud unless there's a couple of screaming kids downstairs.
Yeah,
but-
it really is that like 3 to 5
Yeah.
time is the only time where it's busy enough that you get too much overflow.
Mhm.
1 and 3, it looks like concepts as far as the teen room and the quiet study space are pretty similar, pretty much the same. So 2 is the one that's different with the study and teen space.
Mhm.
A quick question for the group. If you go back to the previous one where the quiet study, the 3 rooms are where the teen room is shown right now. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any reason why those quiet study rooms couldn't be shifted? Why would they need to be against the window there? Could they be instead internal in the building rather than on an external wall? So where it still says quiet study, if you'd come up the stairs, instead of the rooms being immediately to the right, they'd be on the left wall.
So
Would
on
would that allow more light to come through to the rest of the area? Yes,
just-
exactly, Eric, where your cursor.
Mhm.
Something to keep in mind, Bonnie, is that there won't be tables where the quiet study area rooms are. It would be shelving.
Also, there's I don't know what to call it, but there's kind of a skylight transom window that does allow light in at all areas of the second floor there, the mezzanine second floor in the nonfiction.
Yeah,
Is
and
that
you
light
do
kind of where
have
the laptop and the tables are now? The
Yeah.
tables,
Yeah.
tables, chairs.
you would probably be limited as well to no more than 2, just because you've got to keep the walkway at the top of the stairs open. Plus, along the railing on the other side here is walkway access for the elevator that's got to be kept open as well.
I would also hope that those quiet study rooms would have plenty of glass to allow that light from that window not to go completely unused.
Are you
Well-
thinking, would the plan be to have those quiet study areas on the west side outlined in red? Would they be more like Carol's where they'd be open to the east? Or would they have doors?
I think they'd be
They'd have
doors,
doors.
glass doors would be all encased. And something that's not represented here that we've talked about as staff is not having the laptop bar there anymore, which might be necessary with this layout because we're losing collection space.
I think maybe would another option be, the corner, if you go from top to bottom, the way we're looking at this diagram, 1, 2, 3. The third quiet study room, instead of being in a column, if it was beside number 1.
I don't follow what you're saying, Bonnie.
Oh, kind of making like
Make
a corner or an L
an
Like
shape.
a
L.
corner.
Yes.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Again, the where quiet study room number 3, again, top to bottom, 1, 2, 3, where number 3 is. I
So,
hate to
right.
close that up. I hate to close that up because it's a really nice
Yeah.
corner.
It
I
absolutely is. We
Yeah.
will have the Stroh quiet reading room, and we will have a lot more windows in the first floor wood building as well.
I really don't think we'll have much seating up there at all. It'd be mostly collection other than the spaces.
I do see what you're saying, Bonnie, and the L formation might be one that we would want to take a look at. my biggest challenge right now is just picturing exactly how that's going to fit together, because it's going to be, you know, a glass cube, basically, that we would be putting together. And those windows up on that second floor, like 20 feet high, which on the one hand, you know, very much answers the questions. If the light is going to still get in, well, it absolutely is, because it's only, even if we made the rooms like out of the darkest possible material that we could find, the window is still going to be much taller. So there's that. But you know, the flip side is the appearance there, as far as how it looks both inside and outside, having something that's essentially built up against that window. And that's where I'm kind of, for my part, struggling to wrap my mind around it. I do like having the little seating area there. I think that shows well, looking at it, the building from the outside.
Mhm.
But I think we can probably perhaps play around a little bit with the alignment there and see what Joe might suggest. But I think the big question is, in terms of what's going to be where, are we pretty set on the quiet study cubes being out in this space on the current second floor?
I very much like.
Thumbs up from
concept
Bonnie,
one.
thumbs up from Janie.
Thumbs up from Katie.
Okay. Sounds good. It sounds then like we're thinking quiet study, second teen on the mezzanine. Storage built in. Let's see here. And the last question that I think we would be wanting to take a look at would be the use of what's currently the museum's office. Staff versus makerspace, I think, are the options presented. And I think we pretty well decided that the maker space, that we wanted that to be flexible.
It seems to me the staff should weigh in on that, because it's going to affect them a lot more than it's going to affect.
Oh, the staff don't need any more space. They're always complaining that they have too much room and it's too far a walk between desks.
You're delusional, Eric. You're sick. You don't know what you're saying.
I would point out that I do think in terms of the zoning concept one, that this storage space here at the back of the staff area, besides getting rid of a weird and claustrophobic little staff work area, would potentially be a nice new storage space that could potentially work for maker items. And it would provide the bonus as well of providing a little bit of buffer between staff space and the quiet reading room.
Those staff get so noisy.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
You'd be surprised, Janie. You'd be surprised.
Lindy has come through. And
I just wonder if
hear you.
hauling stuff in and out of maker stuff in and out of that storage through the staff room would be disruptive to staff. Not that you guys aren't all disrupted all the time anyway.
I didn't hear the question.
I think we could decide where the maker stuff lives, there or on the second floor later, dependent on what other storage needs we have. The one thing I would say though is it would be very nice to have I would say a little bit less of that taken up by storage as it currently depicts. Right now, we're losing 4 desks. I think we only want to lose 2 because we want to gain desks overall. And I don't know how many we can fit in museum office, but I'm betting 4 might be on the low end.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I
I'm
mean,
hoping.
realistically, then we're not gaining staff space. We're just
Relocating.
Yeah.
it.
relocating it. Yeah.
I mean, it's not, I was gonna say, it may not be essentially gaining, but it does give a little bit, we don't have as many people packed into one
Yeah.
space.
That's a fair point. While it looks like a nice big space in there, the reality is that those double doors going into the machine room really do take up a lot of space. We get chewed out by the fire folk if we put anything in front of those doors.
I
And
thought-
do anything to obstruct the swing.
Okay, Eric, I thought we talked last time about the potential for eliminating one side of those doors.
Yes,
we-
but I have not confirmed yet that we can do that. So until we do, until we've confirmed that we get rid of them, I think we've got to assume that we have to keep them.
Can you
but
back up
anyway,
and tell me what doors you're talking about?
The point I am trying to get across from my fevered brain, Anna, is that I agree with you that to lose 2 desks, not 4, in the main room, because I am not certain how many the new space.
Janie, the mechanical doors in the museum office is what he's talking about.
Mechanical doors in the museum office. Oh, that open to the west into what's now
Yeah,
your space, Eric?
yeah,
There-
the big red doors at the back of my office.
Okay.
Yeah. We
Okay.
just don't know yet how much
And there's
that'll.
a matching set at the back of the museum's office.
Well, both of those places, you have stuff in front of them, don't you? I mean,
We are being recorded.
hmm,
We are not.
My desk is far enough back that they have a free swing.
okay.
And periodically when I'm doing my monthly safety inspection, if I see something that the museum has set in front of the doors on their side, then I will point that out to them. That's a discussion. That's an ongoing discussion that we have.
Gotcha. Okay.
It sounds like what we would look for then with those spaces would be a modified version of what we see on zoning concept 1. Is that what I am hearing as far as our plan A?
Yes, for me.
Sorry, could you repeat that again, Eric?
What
You said-
we're talking around then would be a modified version of concept 1.
Yes.
Yeah, Eric, I've got a question for the group. It relates to all the concepts, including this concept 1, where we've kind of landed, and that is the lobby vestibule. Is there any benefit in enclosing that which is currently open to eliminate that swirl? Kathy mentioned it last time we were, last time this committee met. So, the brick wall extends out there. I think there's roofing that's also already exists. Is there any benefit in
creating like a little actual vestibule here, with the doors, where there's the big
Door-
overhang.
The doors just moved to the north is what you're thinking?
I'm thinking that you put in a second set of doors and you have like a real vestibule and you can unvestibule the part that's currently labeled lobby / vestibule. And as you mentioned last time, I think Janie, make that feel a little more integrated, but have your kind of temperature control and your ice storage, shovel storage, whatever, in that vestibule, in a created vestibule, and cut down on the swirl that happens as you go up those steps and then into the building.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry.
Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
If you think about Lake Forest, they've done that. If you go into Lake Forest, you go right in a set of doors, and then there's just some little display area. Then you go through a second door, and then they have, it's a much wider area, but they have a vestibule which they use for book sales and art displays and so on and so forth. So this would be a much smaller version of that, but the double door is just to manage the weather, and then it gives you a little, not a lot of space.
Yeah, and if I remember right, the Joe did say that the west window areas on both sides of the doors could be worked with.
Right.
But if I remember right, he said he thought there was some fire code stuff that might require us to keep those keep doors that could work there.
We just need the beams. We need the infrastructure. So we might be able to get rid of the double doors, but we wouldn't necessarily be able to get rid of the structure that they're a part of.
Well, and each of the buildings are individually heated, so I don't know if that would add or lose to that situation.
It sounded like there could potentially be, depending, I don't know what we'd have to do as far as the new vestibule to get around it, but we could run into code issues with our HVAC system not being up to code for a open air area of that size, which would be very expensive.
Has to be replaced anyway.
Yeah, I do remember Joe saying something about that now, talking about opening up that space more. And
But I think if you create a vestibule, a smaller vestibule, you'll have that sort of temperature control and potentially, serve as like a fire door. I think it's worth asking. Let me put it this way. Any kind of retrofit of the library, I think if we can, remember that our entryway is a little less than ideal.
If we do that, if we actually pursue that, we will lose the main wood building area as a flexible programming space. Because if you can't close it off, you can't close off the sound. So
I see what you mean. Yeah. I see what you mean.
Warning.
Yeah.
Jillian, we would have to continue to close it off. Joe mentioned that you have two different have fire doors for each of those wings. So we would still, even if we had a vestibule, we'd still have doors as we have them now. That space in between would be usable to some greater degree than it is right now. But the good thing, and I would recommend it, is for that reason. And also because hours may change. I mean, there might be times of the day that one wing is closed and another is open. So the doors would remain for several reasons.
We could always go with ask about doors that are less space heavy. We've got the sliding door that we're going to do for the stroke quiet reading room. Maybe something that's still a door, but not as using as much space. Might be something to take a look at.
sliding rather than swinging, that's That's an interesting thought.
When is a door not a door?
As long as there's
Okay,
something on it that you can read it and not walk into it.
so I'm gonna do a quick walkthrough here as far as what it's my understanding that we've got. Makerspace, mobile, not a dedicated space. Quiet study rooms. Yes to the second floor of the current library space, but also yes to taking some additional look at the arrangement of those, potentially with an eye to not having them right up against the window. Then the teen space on the second floor, along with some storage space. And on the lower level, creating some storage space at the back of the current staff workroom and creating new staff workspace over here. Need to continue to seek info as far as whether those double doors are needed. And it sounds like we've got some questions as well as far as the lobby / vestibule. And the challenge there is that we want to be able to use the collection / flexible programming space for flexible programming as needed. So for that, it really ought to have the ability to close it off with some doors. But at the same time, we do have a vestibule space that is not going to flow necessarily that well between the two. And doesn't really function the way that it's supposed to as a vestibule space. Somehow we got away with that last time. So that's my understanding as far as what we've decided and what we want to ask about.
Eric,
Yes.
I would just add one additional thing of changing the size of the storage space in this current staff room.
Yes.
Okay.
I do have that in the minutes.
Other questions, comments?
Yeah, I would suggest that any modifications to the lobby vestibule area are an asterisk to the other planning, because if they're very cost heavy, that's something that would, definitely influence. So get one big picture. We need to know how that influences the bottom line.
Yes.
I heard someone say, do the
Yes, indeed.
HVAC now because it's inevitable. We're not now. So it can't be huge.
You're breaking up, Kathy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what you heard, what you didn't say. Basically, just any work for the vestibule area should be like exactly what cost is going into that versus the rest of the project, because it could be a real significant chunk, and we need to know that in terms of making decisions.
We can ask for that as a separate item. As far as a cost estimate for any work there.
Is there a feeling that we'll have a significant amount of HVAC work to do at this time? I heard you say, Kathy, we'll have to do any HVAC now, and then the rest of it broke up.
I heard one of the staff say that something. I'm paraphrasing. We're going to do HVAC someday. Why not do something now? And we're not in a position financially to do that kind of planning right now. That would not be part of this project. Wouldn't anticipate it. And as far as the scope of that, Joe had said he'd like to just come out and check out HVAC and so on and so forth, but we weren't talking about that being part of. assessment.
Okay,
Everyone
so
here is
for
confused.
next step, we'll want to get some answers to those questions and revised sketches. Once we've got that to hand, do we want to ask about what it would look like to get cost estimates? That's my understanding of what our ultimate goal here is, that we want to get some estimates that we can attach to a potential capital campaign. Does that sound right, Kathy?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I will let Joe know what we've discussed, see what answers I can get. I will share those as well as revised drafts when I get them.
Okay, great.
Any other items for discussion? I am going to absolutely.
I think we should, I will be happy to move to adjourn. If there's nothing
I'll-
else.
I'll second.
Awesome.